suspects are being. One case involves the FBI is now offering $100,000 to see if the police are releasing.
Welcome to Misty Mysteries, a paranormal and true crime podcast. This week is one topic that I am very excited to talk to you about. I am taking you to San Diego, California to talk about Hotel Del Coronado. I have actually talked about this hotel in the past when I still did some fun facts before the episode. I talked about 2 ghosts in this hotel, and I can't remember the exact episode, but I'm definitely going to be talking about those ghosts again today. The Hotel Del Coronado was built in 1888 as the largest hotel in the world at the time. The hotel is located in Coronado. Coronado is a beach resort town connected to San Diego by a large bridge, and oddly enough was only founded in 1880, just 8 years before the Hotel Del Coronado was built. The hotel was built not only as the largest hotel, but is still the second largest wooden structure in the United States. And when I say wooden, I really do mean wooden. When the hotel was being built, multiple species of wood was used, and nails were not used during the build. Instead, the contractor was instructed to use wooden pegs instead of nails. Even the furnishing inside Hotel Del Coronado, also known as the Del or Hotel Del, remains wooden today. When it first opened in 1888, it cost $1 million to make, and 40% of that cost was just furnishings inside of the Del. If you wanted to stay at the hotel during this time, it would cost you $2.50, including meals for your stay. A week stay would cost you about $15. Today, a stay at the Del will cost you anywhere between $340 to almost $1,000, depending on the room you rent and when you are visiting and how long. This hotel has seen an array of guests, from those who visit San Diego on vacations to Hollywood stars such as Marilyn Monroe, Frank Sinatra, Charlie Chaplin, Tony Curtis, Jack Nicholson, Oprah Winfrey, and presidential guests Ronald Reagan, Franklin D. Roosevelt, and Benjamin Harrison, who was the first president to visit the hotel. The author of The Wizard of Oz, L. Frank Baum, based the Cowardly Lion's crown off a chandelier at the hotel while staying there with his wife and children. Author Stephen King got inspired for his short story, The Investigator, while staying at the hotel. A hotel like this not only has such historical build story, but historical past with the presidential guests, authors, and famous guests, including the filming of a Marilyn Monroe movie, and has lived through so much more history than we could even imagine. With all its history, the Del was named a California Historical Landmark in 1970, and just 7 years later, in 1977, was named a National Landmark. But to understand more of why the Del was named a landmark and how it could possibly be haunted, let's jump into more of a intense history of the Del. But first, let's hear an ad from my sponsors of the podcast, Anchor. Have you heard of Anchor? Anchor is the easiest way to make a podcast. When I started Misty Mysteries, I didn't know where to go, and Anchor helped me get Misty Mysteries started without charging me an arm and a leg. Anchor is really my suggestion for anyone looking to start a podcast. It has tools that allow you to record and edit in-app or on the website. Anchor distributes your podcasts on all the listening places such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Good Pods, and all your favorite listening places. It's everything you need to make a podcast all in one place, and best of all, it's totally free, all on Anchor FM and on the Anchor app. Thank you to Anchor for sponsoring the podcast, but let's get into stories and possible hauntings. One of the most famous ghosts is a woman named Kate Morgan. I talked about Kate on the podcast before, but I'm going to get into way more detail of her story and her hauntings. On November 24th, 1892, 24-year-old Kate checked into the Del. She checked in under the name Miss Lottie A. Bernard, Detroit. Staff at the hotel noted that she was ladylike, beautiful, well-dressed, and reserved, but seemed melancholy and troubled. She kept to herself, but had the housekeepers come to her room often for cleaning and to run her baths. Kate has many different stories, but I'm going to share the 2 most shared stories. First is that Kate married a man named Thomas Edwin Morgan, or Tom Morgan, in her early 20s, and after the loss of her 2-day-old son, she ran away with a man. This man was most likely Albert Allen. It's believed that after a fight with him on a train, she was going to wait for him at the hotel, telling hotel employees she encountered that she was waiting for a doctor and her brother since she was very sick with stomach cancer. But when no notes or visitors came for Kate, her fate took a turn for the worst. The second is also based around Kate being married to Tom Morgan, but in this story, the two would scam men out of their money on the train. Since Kate was an attractive young woman, she lured the men to go out with her, while Tom tricked them into a bet that he knew he would win. While working these scams, Kate found out she was pregnant with her and Tom's first child. She wanted to settle down, but Tom didn't want to, and the two got into a fight. Kate left for the hotel by herself, where she checked in under the name Miss Lottie A. Bernard Detroit. She told people she was waiting for her brother, which people believed was code for Tom, her husband, and when he didn't come, the same as last time, Kate's fate took a turn. What we know as fact in her story is the name she checked into under the hotel, Miss Lottie A. Bernard Detroit. She only checked in with a handbag. She told people she was waiting for her brother, and sadly, on November 29th, Kate was found lying on the steps leading to the beach with a gunshot wound to her head and a gun laying in her hand next to her. The police took Kate away as quickly as they could to keep the other guests of the Del from seeing what had happened. Police had said her death was from what they believed was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Kate Morgan was laid to rest at the Mount Hope Cemetery in San Diego with the donations of an anonymous donor. If the name of this cemetery sounds familiar to you, this is also the cemetery where Thomas Whaley, architect and owner of the Whaley House, was laid to rest. This is not the end of Kate's story in two different ways. The first way, in 1980, a San Francisco lawyer by the name of Alan May investigated Kate's death to find that the bullet wound found in her skull did not match the gun found next to Kate. Since this finding, foul play is suspected. Many believe Tom, or whoever Kate was waiting for, killed her and set up the scene to make it look as if it was self-inflicted. Though not much has been done about this finding, many theories and stories have been spun around Kate's life and her death. Kate still lives on in the Hotel Del Coronado in the form of her hauntings. Her room, 3327, is the most requested of the hotel from both guests and paranormal investigators, being booked out months in advance. In this room comes reports of unexplained breezes, smells, and sounds. Doors open and close by themselves. Electronics and lights turn on and off by themselves. The sink in the bathtub will turn on and off. Guests see Kate's face when the TV goes black or turns off. And a figure shaped like Kate is seen not only in her room, but in the hotel gift shop, where employees report items flying off the shelves, finding random broken items, and the Marilyn Monroe exhibit being trashed. One story that sticks with me comes from a person who stayed in Kate's room. This person had put expensive jewelry in the room safe. One of these items is a necklace. The guest took a 3-hour nap, and when they woke up, the safe had been opened, and her necklace was tied up in a knot. The guests after them had been locked out of their room, and the hotel staff had to try new room keys, till finally the first one worked again. When the guests got back into the room, one of the staff members told them, "That's Kate, she does all her own PR." Kate is such a popular part of the hotel's history and haunting that a book called Beautiful Strangers was written about Kate's visit. The book contains the chronological order of Kate's activity in the hotel, news reports about her visit and death, vintage photos of the hotel, and detailed reports of Kate's ghost encounters. This book was made by the Coronado Historical Society, and the hotel sells this book and even offers tickets for a ghost story campfire on the beach about Kate's ghost encounters. Kate's ghost encounters aren't the only one in the hotel, and her room is not the only haunted room. A woman in an old dress is found wandering the halls of the hotel. This woman is also seen wandering along the seaside on the beach. Another tragic tale of a woman in a haunting is room 3519, once the maid's quarters. The woman who haunts this room has two different stories, much like Kate, and one even relates to Kate. The first story, a maid who worked at the hotel, was a mistress of the hotel owner. She took her own life in room 3519 after she had found out she was pregnant with the hotel owner's child. The second is that the maid living in this room was one who cared for Kate during her visit at the hotel. She got quite close to Kate, and after Kate's death, the maid disappeared on the day Kate was laid to rest. Those who suspect foul play around Kate's death believe whoever hurt Kate hurt the maid but hid her death. People report hearing a woman's voice, cold breezes, temperature drops, and a figure of a woman that disappears quickly. In 1983, a member of the Secret Service stayed in the room, and he was so terrified that he asked to change rooms in the middle of the night without any explanation. A TV crew that I believe was with Travel Channel, from many articles I read, had a glass of water thrown and smashed in the completely empty bathroom of the room. Sharon Whitley Larson, a writer from Creators.com, stayed at Hotel Del and reported an encounter, not of hers, but of her friends while staying at the room 3519. She read about the event, saying, "The only thing that happened was that by now I had convinced two friends to join me for happy hour in the lobby. I headed down early and sipped a drink while I waited. When they finally appeared, they were white as ghosts, asking me how long I had been sitting there. About half an hour, I told them. They swore that as they approached room 3519, they heard voices talking, mine in particular. 'Oh my God, Sharon's here, so she can show us the room,' they commented to each other. Then they knocked, and the voices inside suddenly stopped. My friends knocked some more, calling my name, no response. As a Ghostbuster parapsychologist told me later, we classify room 3519 a classic haunting." Another woman named Helen wrote on TripAdvisor all about her experiences while staying at the hotel. She may not have stayed in room 3519 like Sharon or 3327 like Kate Morgan, but she wrote on TripAdvisor, "We were staying in room 4101 in the California Cabanas. The last 2 nights, the local ghosts came to visit us. For hours, they turned the lights on and off, moved around the room, and adjusted the temperature to extreme heat, then extreme cold." So, what do you think? Would you ever stay at Hotel Del Coronado? Have you ever stayed there or know anyone who has? I would love to hear your experiences and your opinions. If you do want to share or talk to me about it, you can do that on Misty Mysteries Instagram and Twitter, which you can find linked on my Linktree. Thank you so much for listening to this week's episode of Misty Mysteries. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, 5 stars are always welcome and appreciated. I really do listen to every review and appreciate everyone. I always share them with my husband and be like, look what someone said. So I will see you next week for a true crime episode that I have done a lot of research with and I'm very excited to record. Till then, I hope you have a good day. You stay safe, healthy, and hydrated.